us a babe and plotted on chase, gotta make the escape.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening and it's just...
Sorry.
If you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry. I don't wanna cry. I wanna lose
Okay.
Hey, I'm 4 months deep in this jam, and I'm whipping it round as a babe and plotted on chase, gotta make the escape.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening and it's just...
Sorry.
you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose.
Okay.
Hey, I'm 4 months deep in this game, and I'm whipping it round as a babe. And plotted on chase, gotta make the escape.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening, and it's just...
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Wow.
If you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose.
Okay.
Hey, I'm 4 months deep in this game, and I'm whipping it round as a babe. And plotted on chase, gotta make the escape.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening, and it's just...
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Wow.
have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose.
Okay.
Hey, I'm 4 months deep in this jamming, and I'm whipping it round as a babe and plotted on chase, gonna make the occasion.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening, and it's just...
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
If you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose.
Okay.
Hey, I'm 4 months deep in this jamming, and I'm whipping it round as a babe and plotted on chase, gonna make the occasion.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening, and it's just...
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Volley's done, and now it's time for the tandems. If you were here last time, you will understand that we're running 4 groups of 8 drivers, and the first pair is already running. We have our top qualifier Timur and Ivan Zikev giving chase. Timur is running his usual near perfect qualifying run in the lead, and Ivan Zikev is playing a catch-up game. He's managing quite nicely. There were some small points in the first corner, and he messes up the timing for the final transition. That is going to be a major disadvantage. Ivan Zikev is going to be in a major disadvantage after that move in the last corner, and also after what he's done in the first corner as well. But again, you never know what's going to happen. Maybe Timur will make a critical mistake in his chase, but I don't see that happening. And as of right now, he's giving very close chase, pointing his car in the correct direction. Ivan Zikev is doing pretty okay. In the lead round was a very close transition by Timur, bumper to bumper, accelerating up to the last outer zone and being very close to the door there. I think it's pretty much job done for Timur. As our top qualifier, he really shows that he can do pretty much a perfect lead run and then be quite unfazed in the chase position as well. Sort of, you know, predicting what is going to be happening up next, what the leader is going to be doing. In this case, it's of course Ivan Zikev. And Ivan, we say thank you for participating, and Timur will be going into the top 16. And his opponent will be, of course, decided by the next couple of drivers. Again, as I said, we have 4 groups of 8 drivers, so every group goes up to top 4. And then we have our, you know, top 4 battle for 3rd place and the final. So next pair is going to be Peter and Alexander Bostritsky. Of course, we have the Russian Rise Drift Team and Legal Band. Quite a good matchup in terms of teams and so on. Of course, the Russian Rise team are all running 4G63 Evo engines. A weird choice, might seem, but to be working. Of course, Makarov was largely successful on during the last stage. This stage, well, the quali didn't really go to plan, I'm assuming. But again, quali isn't everything, and your ability to give chase is what makes the big difference. So in this group, we will also see Vlad Novikov, who's also part of the Russian Rise Drift Team, Alexei Nishadim, Alexander Melnikov, and Matthias Lucas. So we have Alexander Bostritsky already at the line, and he's going to be leading, which we'll see how he gets on. Maybe he'll do, a better. It's actually, we changed the order a bit. So Vlad Novikov is going to be the first one to give lead, and Alexander Shadim came very close to the rear quarter of Vlad's car. Deceleration, very quick dive onto the door. You can see Vlad not running a lot of angle in the second outside zone. Again, maybe that's why Alexander Shadim was unable to catch up to the leader at that exact part of the track. Last zone looks quite good. Again, I'd say maybe lacking a bit of proximity in a couple of places. Vlad running pretty good lead run, sort of respective to his position in qualifying, I would say. But let's see if Vlad Novikov can do the same in the chase, and it's a crash into the wall. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe there was a bit of contact. Anyway, they're continuing. Of course, it's going to be a 0 for the collision with the wall, but they're doing it for the love of the game, and yeah, it's actually pretty good chase. Of course, Vlad's being quite careful because gonna be up to the judges to decide what actually happened there in the first corner. Right on the initiation. Whose fault was that? And because of that, who's going to be like moving forward, or maybe, just maybe, it is going to be one more time, which is kind of likely, but also, you know, when there's a collision only in one run of the heat, it usually makes it so that the decision goes one way or the other, not, you know, sort of in the middle, let's do it again sort of thing. But there's also, like I said in the last stage, there's sort of old saying which is true like 90% of the time. The longer it takes for the judges to come up with a decision, the higher the chance of a one more time is. And it is taking them quite some time so far to figure out who was actually the strongest of the two BMW drivers. I mean, that initiation is not a major deceleration point, so unless Vlad did something, I don't know, unspeakable and just didn't break at all, it very likely will be full leader. But again, maybe there was some quite serious contact forcing the leader to crash into the wall. Yeah, the graphics are not quite right because we already, of course, had that run, and yeah, the decision is still not here, and it seems like yeah, Vlad Novikov did make a mistake on initiation, but Maxim Serebrennikov, the only judge to vote for one more time. Interesting. So it's a split decision, but of course what really matters is that two judges voted for Vlad to make his way to top 16. Have some donuts going on in the background. That's probably Vlad celebrating. But anyway, we have our next matchup ready at the line. Not sure why there's so much separation, like right from the start, but yeah, Matthias Lucas isn't really doing that well. Yeah, sort of very solid lead run, you know, very wide, like you can see in the third outside zone, he's as wide as he can be pretty much, and the same goes for the fourth one, and just Matthias not having the pace to pressure Alexander in the lead. So yeah, maybe he just sort of didn't understand when to start, because you know we're running the semaphore. Yeah, it's already the second part of this heat, and Alexander is keeping sort of a safe distance, but diving into the third outside zone, being a little bit on the inside. Matthias is running quite wide and with massive angle. Alexander diving way too much on the inside, and Matthias just crashes into the wall. I was quite unlucky again to finish the run in the wall at the very end of the track. Is a big disappointment. Quite unlucky, but I think the decision is pretty obvious. Alexander Melnikov is going to be our next competitor in the top 16 round of competition. So, congratulations, I guess. We're going to be running our top 16 now, of course. It is going to be again, first place qualifier Timur versus Alexander Bystrzycki, who we've seen not so long ago, I would say. It didn't really have a run against Peter. But anyway, there's quite a bit of pace difference again. You've seen these Russian race cars being quite fast at the previous round, but it seems they're no match for Timur's rapid Skyline, who's shooting into the distance, and only now Alexander Bystrzycki in the third outside zone is managing to keep good proximity with the leader. Yeah, there's definitely quite a lot of difference in straight line speed in terms of actual side bites, how the car grips up and how fast it's going. When it's drifting, I think the difference is not that major, but still the run up to initiation here is it's not sort of road Atlanta level, of course, but quite noticeable for these cars. Yeah, and you can see Timur having no issue getting on the door for Alexander Bystrzycki, being on the rear quarter panel right now, having a bit less angle, but again, nothing too critical. It's not, the James Dean school of driving. Very close in the third outside zone. You see, this is pretty much the only place where Alexander Bystrzycki was close to Timur in his chase run, and Timur is close to the leader throughout the whole track. I would say the proximity difference is quite major. As for the lead runs, Bystrzycki quite very solid. But again, Timur, in my opinion, had a better lead run, slightly. Especially in the second outside zone. But I don't think the difference in lead runs is as major as the difference in the chase runs. Again, judges are taking their sweet time to decide who's going to be the top 8 driver. I think our and it's gonna be Timur. Yeah. The next, of course, Timur is gonna be battling either Alexei Nishadim or Alexander Melnikov. And they are actually on the line. Right now, it is gonna be Alexander Melnikov to lead first. The graphics are not quite right. There's a massive difference in pace right off the bat. Alexander just again shooting into the distance. Not enough pace to catch up, neither in the straight line, and nor is it really manageable in when they're drifting. So yeah, Alexander Melnikov spent probably a good amount of time tuning the car. Or again, I haven't really seen the start. Maybe he just sort of didn't pay attention. I mean, Alexei Nishadim. Yeah, second run of the heat is underway, and yeah, there is again separation from the start, which is interesting because I thought Alexander Melnikov had vastly more, powerful, or should I say, a bit faster of a car than Alexei Nishadim. But it seems like, yeah, there was some problem at the start. In the first run of the heat, So Alexander Melnikov even had to rely on some means of, cutting the course and trying to get as close to Alexei as possible. Maybe a bit unnecessary, I don't know. But it seemed like, especially in the last part of the track, that he really needed to do something to catch up. Of course, a lot of the times it comes down to driver error. So not managing your tire, how it grips up, not managing the angle at which you're running and chasing. It obviously plays a role in how close you're running and like the longevity of that proximity. Because of course you can stick your nose into the front fender and then sort of not notice that the place where you need to transition comes up very quickly, and then you either block the transition for the lead driver, or well, you get stuck, you get out of it to allow the leader to transition, and you're nowhere near, you're very far away. So yeah, it is a case of managing quite a lot of factors when chasing, which, well, I wouldn't say was demonstrated very well by Alexander Melnikov, but still, they start taking their time to decide who's going up against Timur in the top 8. Maybe it's gonna be one more time, and it seems like it is. Yeah, we're gonna run it back. Split decision, but 2 against 1. We are gonna see that run again. It will be interesting to see whether there's gonna be such a big separation at the start between these two, like there was in the first heat. And maybe there's a problem with the semaphore for Alexei Nishidim, and he's nowhere near. Just lost so much proximity. Yeah, you can see him just at the bottom of your screen sometimes, just driving away into the distance. So it's not so much the pace difference as timing difference. Or technical issues, They do play quite a big role in all of this. And the second run is go. So Alexei, well, there's pretty much nothing he can do to make it go his way. Alexander, of course, is keeping a safe distance. There's no need to risk, and he's crashing into the leader. It's really unnecessary at this point. But it's not really close chase, I wouldn't say so, because the first corner definitely wasn't close between the two. And in the next couple of zones, like the second one and the last one, was like okay proximity. But in the third zone, he decided to smash into the leader, which is, well, suboptimal, I would say. Of course, it wasn't on purpose. I don't imagine that it was. But still, sort of, that area, a lot of drivers you could see, like Alexei did right there, they play with the throttle and with the clutch inputs, and as a result, the car may slow down and gain speed in a short period of time. And as you're going in, again, you're doing you're in quite a big angle at that point, and so when you're playing with your inputs, it's making quite a noticeable difference to the pace of the lead driver. And as a chaser, you need to, of course, account for that. And sort of predict when, where and when the decels are going to start and they're going to end. And how can you sort of calculate the ideal timing for diving on your opponent or getting out of it, for letting him transition or whatever. It again wasn't sort of very calculated chase by Alexander Melnikov, especially in the third outside zone. He made a dive, yes, but it wasn't very calculated, and neither was it very successful because, well, he smashed the door of his opponent, but then Alexander Shadim just sort of drove away, and Alexander wasn't like really close to the lead driver, which is why, yeah, I think, well, obviously we're ignoring like the elephant in the room, which is the first run when there was like massive separation between the two. And unless it was a false start, it is going to be again massive advantage coming Alexander Melnikov's way. The decision still isn't dropping in. Oh, it is. It is going to be one more time. Again, no idea why that sort of came about. But we'll see it for the third time, and I have to say the final time, because, again, there is going to be, of course, that case of no more than 2 more times, and provided that the decision after the last sort of run is going to be a one more time, the winner is going to be decided by the qualification result, which is sort of obvious to you if you're watching real drifting competitions or other sim drifting competitions. But maybe someone doesn't. This time Alexander's team does get off well, and it's very close initiation. Ooh, a big correction right after the start line, right after the initiation. But he sort of, yeah, he missed. The mistiming here is very noticeable because he sort of started slowing down before the leader, and yeah, there was quite a bit of air between the two cars, and a massive correction in the third outside zone as well. So yeah, even though Alexei this time managed to get away well and not, wasn't chilling at the start line like last time and like the first time as well, it was still not very good chase run. Alexander Melnikov now is being, well, again, pretty much the same situation as with Yasin Shadim's chase. He was slowing down way before the leader and started accelerating even after the leader, so the separation is still there. I would say that these chase runs are very similar, and there's a crash into the wall. That's an interesting end to this duel, which has been going for too long already. Alexander Melnikov is gonna be our second driver in the top 8 in this group. He's of course going to be going against our first place qualifier, Timur. Sorry, yeah, Timur, of course, as the top qualifier, is going to be leading every time he runs. So yeah, interesting matchup. We've seen Timur battle pretty much without any any issues straight through top 32 16 and into top 8, and Alexander Melnikov had a pretty difficult path up towards this point, and yeah, you can see again Timur very consistent in his lead run, very wide there in the second outside zone, very solid angle. It's a huge transition into 3, very impressive, but Alexander Melnikov is somewhat keeping up with him, but maybe just, yeah, in the last zone there is quite a bit of separation. A bit less than a car length, but yeah, very impressive from Timur. Good effort from Alexander, and Timur is actually, yeah, standing behind, like a car length behind the start line. First, to give him the opportunity to roll forward as the, as you can see, as the light sort of goes yellow and stuff. You can already see how close you can get, like from the beginning. Very risky in the slowdown section, being very close to the leader, and big dive into the third outside zone, being on the rear quarter panel, and the same, it's an even closer transition into the last outside zone. Very good chase. I think that sort of sealed the deal for the run, but again, not quite sure. That's entirely my opinion. And we have our 1 vote and 2 votes. Timur is going to be going into top 4. He's, you know, your quote-unquote winner of this Group A, Group 1. And we'll see him battle someone from Group 2. You can see the bracket here. Yeah, the names just popped up. So yeah, Group 1 is what I call the upper left part of the screen, which is what we've had just now. And Timur is going to be the winner of that. He's going to be going into the top 4. And up next, we're going to be hosting Group 2, which includes drivers like Alexander Kuskov, Andrei Akhmetov, Nikolai Tarasov, Vladimir Zakharov, Vadim Grishin, Andrei Popov, Alexander Borisov, and Dmitry Popov.
If you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose control.
Okay.
Hey, I'm for my
Second group is gonna be underway very shortly. We have our first pair of drivers. Like I said, Alexander Kuskov is gonna be leading. He's gonna be participant of the first pair in this group, running against Andrei Akhmetov. And there is again a couple of car lengths between the two cars. Andrei not having the pace. There's a huge dive and a hit on the door of Alexander Kuskov. Just too risky on the slowdown. You always have to understand that, you know, the sub zone is there for the leader to, well, decelerate. So if you hit someone as a chase driver in the decel zone, it is going to be largely your fault. But, well, the run continued forward, and that's what we like to see. So, time for the second run. I think there are some technical difficulties there. But yeah, Andrei Akhmetov went into the wall. We'll see whether that's going to be, rerun or decision is already there, and it seems like it is. Alexander Koskov is going into top 32, top 16. I'm sorry, and he'll be going against either Nikolai Tarasov or Vladimir Zakharov. Who are already on your screen. So, again, two BMWs, no surprise. Nikolai Tarasov is gonna be leading, and Vladimir Zakharov giving chase. You can see a lot of waving from the chase driver in the first corner, and the massive anger from the leader. It's too much. He has to understeer not to spin out. A little bit of a moment there, and it's very close between the two guys in the third outside zone. Is there enough space to transition? Yes, there is, but there's also a bit of separation there at the start of the last outside zone, which becomes pretty much non-existent at the end of this run. So now let's see whether Vladimir Zakharov will be able to do a better job at leading than Nikolai Tarasov did. Initiation, he's already in the smoke cloud. A bit of separation, not too major, big dive onto the door, and leader has very little angle. Again, I'm bashing on about this forever, but it's true. Like, very little angle in the second outside zone for leader. Surely has to be a mistake. Big dive from the chase driver now. Ooh, and it's a crash into the wall. There was contact between the two guys, I believe, prior to the crash, which would indicate that the crash with the wall was actually caused by the, contact between two drivers. Which would suggest that Nikolai Tarasov is at fault for the contact, and Vladimir Zakharov would go into top 16, but again, these are largely speculations. But the first judge is voting for Zakharov, and the second one as well, so Vladimir Zakharov is going into the top 16. And now we're going to be having another battle to find out who's going to top 16. It is going to be the graphics are actually quite wrong. It is going to be Vadim Grishin and Andrei Popov, but the car is different, I believe. Yeah, you'll see because it's top 32 how different the positions in quali were. First, Vadim Grishin got an 85, I believe, in quali, and Andrei Popov only managed a 71. But he was pretty good last time we were here in the first round, and he's giving very close chase so far, bashing the leader sometimes on the door. It's close. It's a close chase, I think, all round. Ooh, but losing proximity there, close, coming up to the finish line. Maybe a bit too aggressive in the third outside zone, and not, preparing the transition into the last zone. A bit of a mistake, but yeah, everything other than that, very close chase, very solid. Let's see what he can do in the lead. Huge angle from the initiation, and Andrei Popov is actually right there. Rear quarter panel, door, front wheel, all of that in a mix. The transition is done in advance and it pays off. Very good transition by Team Grishyn. And let's see if he can do a better job of transitioning into the last zone than Andrei Popov, and he does. The chase run, I think, was done better by Vadim. I mean, the first part of the track, I prefer the chase run by Andrei Popov. It did look somewhat better, but also I would say that the sort of the second parts, well, everything from the first, everything other than the first turn was done better by Team Grishyn in the chase position. As for lead runs, well, both were very good. I'd say Andrei, of course, had that sort of, flashy initiation with insane angle, but other than that, pretty similar in the sense that both were good lead runs. And we have decisions dropping in, and it seems like, yes, Team Grishyn did have a better chase run, as I said, and he's going into the top 16. We're gonna have our third battle, I believe, or rather fourth one in this Group 2, Group B, however you want to call it, which is gonna be Alexander Borisov and Dmitry Popov. So, yeah, the positions in quali are mirrored, 12th and 21st. Let's see whether that translates to tandems. It's a big dive to the inside by Dmitry Popov right from the start. That wasn't most clever strategy in my opinion, because he definitely has the pace to keep up with the leader. Has to pull on the handbrake all the time to create some separation from the lead driver, not smash into his door or something. Ooh, but there is a crash into the wall by the leader, maybe caused by the chase driver. Will be investigated quite shortly after we have our second run. Dmitry Popov was definitely very aggressive in the chase, maybe too aggressive. Again, will depend on whether that crash was caused by him or it was something else, and it was a big angle initiation by the chase driver. That was very entertaining, very impressive to see. And Alexander Borisov is getting very close chase again, very aggressive, but so far without violence. And let's see if the last transition is close. The transition surface is close, but yeah, Alexander Borisov is getting lost a bit there in the last zone. Overall, very close. I really liked the initiation. It was very impressive, to say the least. You rarely see chase drivers matching the angle on initiation or even like exceeding it. That's obviously even rarer sight. So yeah, that was an exception. That was definitely interesting to watch. And moreover, he didn't really like fall back because of that initiation. He sort of managed to stay with the leader through the first corner, and that I think is even more impressive. And judges are taking their time to decide whether that sort of aggressiveness in the first run was what caused the crash into the wall, or maybe it was just the leader's fault. We'll see quite shortly, but again, I think both chase runs were aggressive, definitely. But Alexander Borisov had a somewhat cleaner chase run. It was, again, also aggressive, but also he wasn't like tapping the leader all the time, although he had pretty much same proximity. And for lead runs, again, it's hard to compare them as a whole, because there was that incident at the end. So Alexander Borisov went into the wall, and sort of his run ended prematurely, like right before the finish line. That's again the major thing to consider, to sort of unpack, understand what was behind that, what was the reason, and who's at fault. I think that sort of obviously is going to be the decider who's going into the top 16. But it seems like it's harder than it looks. It needs to be investigated quite heavily. Yeah, and when comparing chase runs, I would also say that I liked Alexander's sort of angle matching more. It seems like Alexander Borisov is going to get the win and move on to the top 16. Now we're going to have our first battle of top 16. It's going to be Alexander Kuskov is giving lead to Vladimir Zakharov. Quite a close initiation. Alexander is very wide, but Vladimir Zakharov is not letting him go. He's very close. He's making a dive into the second outside zone, but then immediately loses proximity. Another dive into the third outside zone. It is too much angle for Vladimir Zakharov. But very slow transition into the last outside zone allows him to be close at the end. Couple of mistakes by the chase driver, of course. Second outside zone wasn't that good. That sort of over-ambition with angle in the third outside zone. Let's see if Alexander Kuskov makes the same mistake. A lot of wobbling there in the first part of the track. Big decel right there on the door. Again, more wobbling. Big dive, but not quite there yet. Couple of taps on the door of the lead driver. A good transition, and it is pretty close. It's closer definitely than Vladimir was in his chase run. But it's kind of unlikely that that one thing is going to change the outcome. That last outside zone is going to change the outcome of this duel. But when both runs are clean, without contact, without zeros, basically, it does usually come down to these little mistakes, differences, and stuff like that. And it seems like we are going to have Alexander Kuskov in the top 8, sort of like the finals of this particular group. And now we have our second battle of top 16, which is going to be Vadim Grishin against Alexander Borisov. Vadim Grishin is going to be in the lead position and Alexander Borisov is going to be giving chase. Alexander Borisov, of course, had a difficult heat, difficult duel in the top 32, but now he's here in the top 16. Again, the sun is down, pretty much quite dark. It's a dive by Alexander Borisov. It's very close to Vadim Grishyn in the third outside zone. See if he can make it stick in the last outside zone. Not quite. Getting lost on the transition and just creating a bit of separation there. They're gonna switch biases, and Vadim Grishyn is gonna try to replicate all the good from Alexander Borisov's chase and drop all the bad about it as well. Very close initiation, and Vadim is falling behind slightly, but managing to catch up. Very low angle, just kind of expected, and being a bit on the inside of the track and still not being able to catch up. So Alexander Borisov only now in the third outside zone. He's relatively close to the lead car, and the last transition is very similar to that of Alexander Borisov when he was giving chase. So two somewhat similar runs, I would say. Again, not having the proximity in the first corner is sort of critical. Vadim definitely only caught up to the lead car in the third outside zone. Alexander Borisov was like here and there in the first corner, and then definitely was there in the third outside zone. So yeah, maybe they were quite similar in terms of pace, of course. In terms of the lead, I mean, Alexander Borisov's lead, in my opinion, was a bit better, because it was like more aggressive, somewhat. At least like in certain parts of the track, like especially the transition to the third outside zone. And it seems like, yes, Alexander Borisov is going into the top 8, where he's going to be battling Alexander Kuskov, of course, for the chance to go into the top 4. Alexander Kuskov, being the 4th place qualifier, of course, is going to start first. Two BMWs, as usual. No real surprises. Alexander Kuskov had, not an easy sort of like sailing to the top 8, but again, Alexander Borisov probably had a little bit of a more difficult time. Anyway, what matters is here and now, and it's a big angle for Alexander Borisov. Immediately corrects his car, but it's very close to the first corner. Deceleration, and it's overshoots and crashes into the leader. Again, what I said about the contacts in the decel zone, pretty much all the time it's going to be the chase driver's fault, because it is a dedicated deceleration zone, so you have to follow the rules. So there is a deceleration happening, so the leader has to decel before the wall to have enough grip to actually not crash into it. So let's see if Alexander makes the same mistake. I wouldn't think so. Right now, again, some separation, but it's sort of expected, and Alexander Borisov goes into the wall on his own. It's like so interesting that the run ended in the same part of the track 2 times. For 2 different reasons. Oh, one The reason is the same, but sort of the causes are a bit different. Which means that Alexander Kuskov is going into the top 4, where he's going to be going against, well, of course, our first place qualifier, Timur Burilov. And yeah, later on we'll have Group 3 and Group 4. In Group 3 we'll see drivers like Vladislav Ryazanov, Pavel Khazanov, Ivan Karmushin, Yaroslav Banderov, Kirill Nikolaev, Artyom Avramenko, and the last pair, which is going to be Daniil Makarov and Ilmar Habibulin.
If you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose.
Okay.
Hey, I'm 4 months deep in this jamming, and I'm whipping it round as a babe and plotted on chase, gonna make the escape.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening, and it's just...
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Group 3 is here, and the first pair, of course, is going to be Vladislav Ryazanov and Pavel Khazanov, number 2 in quali and number 31 respectively. Vladimir is going to be giving lead, and it's quite a close initiation, but again very wobbly in the chase position. A lot of corrections by Pavel Khazanov. Not managing to get close to the leader, even though he sort of decreased the angle quite a bit. But also I have to say, Pavel not having the ideal lead run, especially in the second outer zone. But yeah, Pavel just not having the pace to deal with the leader. Well, not much you can do about that. He tried to, you know, shell up the angle, cut the course, but didn't quite work. Let's see whether Pavel... Ooh, it's not really gonna happen because Pavel actually smashed into the wall on his own as leader. So that concludes our first run of top 32, I believe. And yeah, a very short one. But anyway, Vladimir Ryazanov is going to be going into the top 16, where he will find either Ivan Karmushin or Yaroslav Banderov. those are going to be our next drivers. Ivan Karmushin is going to be starting as lead driver. Again, this graphic is a bit wrong. He's driving a Sylvia. Yaroslav Banderov is going to be giving chase. Again, the winner of this is going to be going against Vladislav Rizanov, who is a very, of course, tough opponent. Second place qualifier. Just a very, very fast driver. Between these two, it's a bit more similar, like 15th and 18th in quali. Small separation. But anyway, Ivan is starting as a lead driver, and Yaroslav is way on the inside, shuttling up the angle, but managing to keep with the leader, which is the most important thing. The diesel, a bit of mistiming there, and contact on the transition. Still the drivers managed to get through, but Yaroslav Banderov just very much on the inside of the track, and not having nearly the same angle as the lead driver, so a lot of compromises to keep the proximity, which still sort of wasn't really there. As for third outside zone and beyond. Anyway, Yaroslav now starting as lead driver, and Ivan immediately on his door. From the initiation there's contact, and they're going up towards the decel zone. Ivan is much better in the deceleration point than Yaroslav was in his run, and the same goes for third outside zone. Yaroslav not having the angle as well as the lead driver, and Yaroslav, of course, having even less, but that's a huge dive into the last zone, way on the inside. Yeah, the chase runs by both these guys were really not ideal. A lot of compromise, a lot of mistiming, and just very little sync and sort of harmony in those moves. But, you know, again, for the criteria in the chase, of course, the most important bit is proximity. So if you manage to hold proximity, even though you're sort of out of sync, you're running less angle, you're cutting course, what really matters at the end of the day is whether you're close to the lead driver or not. And it seems like it's not that obvious. And the judges are deciding now who's going to be the winner, and it seems like it's going to be Yaroslav Banderov. He's going into the top 16. So even though his chase was, well, in my opinion, worse, there were some things that sort of redeemed where he redeemed himself and managed to get the upper hand. Our next, of course, pair of drivers are going to be Kirill Nikolaev and Artyom Avramenko. They're still not on the line, interestingly. Kirill Nikolaev, as the 7th place qualifier, will be starting in the lead position. Artyom is going to be giving chase. 2 BMW E92s. And yeah, different engines, of course. Kirill has the S55 B30 to match the cars, IRL cars that he drives, I believe. The Kultura Zanosa cars all have S55 B30, S55 turbos, as they call it. Yeah, very little difference, I believe, in pace. let's see. Artyom initiating quite close. Kirill Nikolaev having a very, wide line on the initiation, very close to the wall, and there's way too much angle in the chase position there by Artyom. Kirill having no issues so far. And Artyom is just having way too much angle at pretty much every point of the track, which is preventing him from having decent proximity. So switching things around, if Kirill Nikolaev can avoid making those mistakes of over pushing the car into a big angle all the time, then he will probably be the winner, and it's a contact on the initiation, but they somehow carry on, and proximity is there still. Kirill Nikolaev is falling behind slightly. Artyom is driving away, but there's a dive into outside zone 3, and Kirill Nikolaev has of course less angle, but that's of course better than what Artyom demonstrated in his chase run, where he was consistently driving with more angle than the leader. Ooh, so for the first run, again, Artyom having, not the best chase run, definitely. That was pretty clear, but the second run sort of complicated things because Kirill Nikolaev had that mistake on initiation where he smashed into the leader. But there's an argument to be made here that it didn't cause the run to stop, but seems like we're gonna have a one more time. So exact same order. Kirill was gonna be starting first because he was 7th in quali, and Artyom is gonna be giving chase. Let's see if he can sort of cure his disease of of driving with enormous angles all the time. And so far it's sort of working, but it's pretty much straight wheels for Artyom in the first corner. Kirill is again also not having the best angle in the second outside zone, but that's not the biggest issue here. Artyom manages to catch up and also pretty much over rotates in the third outside zone, falling behind pretty much. Indeed. Relatively close finish, but everything before that was, not close, definitely. So now switching things around, if Kirill can avoid smashing into the leader on initiation, it is going to be advantage his way. He sort of tapped him, I believe, but the run is still going, and Kirill, no, he's not managing to catch up to the leader, which is, but the leader I think is dropping some tires on the outside of the track there. But Kirill still not managing to catch up to the lead driver. Some issues with pace. Maybe Kirill's car is set up in such a way that his tires are very much gone after the first run, and because his first run is always the lead run, you get what I mean. It seems like it was just enough, and Kirill Nikolaev is moving on to the top 16. I have to say, in the top 16, he will be battling either Daniil Makarov or Ilmar Khabibulin, who are coincidentally our next driver pairing in this group, and the last pair of top 32. After that, we'll obviously have the top 16. So yeah, Daniil Makarov not having the best qualifying of his life, definitely. So, well, 10th place, I believe he was 10th or something or other, and yeah, he was 10th. So, sort of worse than his previous performances. But still, of course, it all comes down to the ability to chase, largely. And of course, you have to consider that he's running against Tilmar, who was 23rd in quali. So on paper, he does have the advantage in at least in the lead runs. We'll see whether that's true. I think this sort of pairing is quite interesting, only because of Ilmar, because he's running this beautiful Toyota Mark II, which is unique. I think it's the only one in the championship. We've had some JZX 100s, but not JZX 81s. So always appreciate unique vehicles like the Super Forester, or you know, this Mark II, the Supra. It's a way to say that the Supra is a unique vehicle, well, when it's like one of the most popular cars in the world when it comes to drifting, especially. But in our championship, it is. We're waiting for one of the competitors to pull to the line, which, well, still not happening as of right now. But in case you're bored, of course, in order to spend the time, you can check out Drift News, the latest news from the world of drifting, be it Formula Drift, Drift Masters, Russian Drift Series, Royal Drift Series, everything that you want to see, car builds, runs, onboards. Everything can be found down there. Zoom Racing also have their own championship. Makarov design and 3D modeling, Daniil Makarov, of course, is responsible for that. You can have the car of your dreams. And also check out our own ISDCC drift school and our livery designs. In the meantime, Daniil Makarov gets the win because Ilmar fails to show up to the line. So now we'll have our first run of top 16. So Vladislav Rizanov against Yaroslav Banderov. And Vladislav Rizanov, as the second place qualifier, is starting in the lead, and Yaroslav Banderov just very awkward initiation, but manages to get close and missed timing there in the D-cell zone. Managed to somewhat get back to proximity in the third outside zone, accelerating out into the fourth outside zone. Transition is very well calculated by Yaroslav. This is the only place where he convincingly managed to get close to the lead driver. Vladislav is obviously running a very fast car. There's no denying that. It seems like it was quite hard for Yaroslav to get close. So let's see what happens when they switch things around. It's not a very close initiation, which is interesting, but Vladislav is, eliminating any distance pretty much immediately, running very close in the second outside zone. Early transition into the third outside zone, manages to make it work, and being stuck a little bit on the inside, but it doesn't matter because there's only one zone left, and it's also very close. Yeah, Vladislav, definitely a very good chase. I would say that better than Yaroslav's chase. In terms of lead runs, no real questions, and as a result, Vladislav gets the win, advances on to the top 8. Now we're gonna have, of course, Kirill Nikolaev and Daniil Makarov going up against each other to find out who's going into the top 8. Daniil Makarov is already at the line. Interestingly, he was, he's going to be starting as a chase driver because Kirill Nikolaev managed to get 7th place in quali against the 10th place of Daniil Makarov. Two BMW E92s, very different in terms of looks and internal components, and it's very close by Daniil Makarov straight away from the initiation, left foot braking the whole way through the first corner, and being a little bit on the inside there on the transition, the dive into the third outside zone. Nikolaev definitely could have used more angle there in the third outside zone, and the last transition, it's very close between the two. Yeah, Daniil Makarov definitely has the pace and control to match Kirill Nikolaev's. But a couple of points there. I don't know, something sort of happened at the beginning there, at the end there. What's up? I don't know what seems to be going on right now. Maybe a false start, or maybe some other technical difficulties. We see Daniil Makarov just running his line like nothing happened. So maybe it's an issue on Kirill Nikolaev's end. So it seems like I thought at the beginning that was like a false start by Daniil Makarov, and there needs to be a rerun, but seems like there wasn't. And as a result, Daniil Makarov is going into the top 8 to meet Vladislav Rezanov. Second place qualifier against 10th place qualifier for the chance to go into the top 4. Gonna be interesting. But of course, Daniil Makarov, I think, has very similar pace to that of Vladislav Rezanov. He could probably even like outpace him, but again, it doesn't necessarily come down to just that. You know, how much angle are these drivers running, how aggressive they are. And of course, Daniil Makarov is going to be starting in the chase position. Vladislav Rezanov is going to be leading as second place qualifier. His initiations are, I think, something that separates him from a lot of the others. Like, this is properly fast, aggressive, and then very precise into the inside touch and go into the diesel zone. And Daniil Makarov not necessarily as fast as the lead driver in this case, and being on the inside, left foot braking heavily in the third outside zone, and the transition into the last zone, this is quite close, but again having quite a bit less angle than the lead driver, so you would expect the chaser to get closer with that difference in angle. But yeah, let's see whether Vladislav can do a better chase run and not fall behind in the second outside zone. It's very close right from the beginning. Let's see how they manage the diesel zone. It's a dive from Rizanov, and it's much better than what the new MAKAROV managed. Early transition, dive into the third outside zone, a little bit less angle than the leader, makes it work. And this last transition, a little bit of contact. He sort of lost a bit of proximity there at the moment of the transition, but managed to catch up. So I think the average proximity in the run was better, probably by Vladislav Rizanov. But maybe at certain points of the track, the new MAKAROV was closer. That is a possibility. But, you know, you have to sort of take it as a mean of all the zones on the track. And also you have to consider that some parts are, you know, harder to chase. So in some parts of the track, it is harder to get close to the leader. And in some parts, it's quite easy. Well, I wouldn't say that it's very easy, but easier is, I think, the correct term. And that obviously comes into play once you sort of weigh out the average proximity for the run, and then it's sort of all these nuances about, you know, the inside touch and go is the most important part of the track. So how close to the lead driver was the chaser in this position, and when they switched round, how things played out in that exact same place. How close was, well, the new MAKAROV for Vladislav Rizanov to one another in that part of the track. Then sort of was there separation in the second outside zone. And it seems like Vladislav Rizanov is going to be going into the top 4. He's our third driver in the top 4, and the last one is going to be decided in the 4th group, where you'll find drivers like Ilnur Simbayev, Nikita Yeparov, Zakhar Bakhmat, Kirill Chichetin, Roman Friedman, and Nikita Karavayev. Oh, and also Igor Motorny and Yuri Merkulov.
If you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose control.
Okay.
Hey, I'm 4 months deep in this jam, and I'm winning and running some babe and plotting on chase, gonna make the escape.
Wow, it's
it's time to find out who's going to be the last driver in the top 4. And the first drivers to do so are going to be Ilnur Simbayev and Nikita Yabarov, driving the Nissan Silvia S13. Ilnur hasn't changed his car since the last round, and Nikita also is driving his sort of usual Nissan Laurel. It's an aggressive initiation by Ilnur, very big angle and very precise on the inside touch and go, bring very deep there. Nikita diving to the door in the deceleration point, but then not having the acceleration out of the second outer zone to catch the leader before the transition into the third zone. And same goes, there's even more separation in the fourth outside zone. So Ilnur is very quick, definitely, and Nikita is struggling a bit. And let's see how Ilnur manages to chase a slower car, because it is also a challenge. Always, as of right now, he's managing beautifully. Ooh, there's a bit of a moment there. I think Nikita pulled the handbrake the second time in the actual zone itself, which is not what you want to see. Ilnur managed to somehow not cause a massive collision. It's very close at the finish line. So Ilnur, a reminder, was third place in quali, and Nikita was only 30th. And now Ilnur is going into the top 16, so where he will be driving against either Zahar or Kirill, which are the drivers for the next duel. They are already on the line. Again, relatively close in quali, so 14th and 19th. But yeah, let's see whether there's any major difference in the speed of these two cars. So Zahar is straightening out quite a bit. Kirill is trying his best to catch up to the leader. Maybe on the transition it is quite a dive, and he makes it work. It's on the door. And the last transition is bumper to bumper. It's very close between the two. Has to sort of pull the handbrake to even pull back the car a little bit. Not to end the run before the finish line comes. And now Zahar is gonna be giving chase. Let's see if he can manages to do the exact same angle pretty much as the leader, as Kirill. Very good chase so far. Loses the leader slightly on the deceleration. Transition to the third outside zone. Pretty close, again wobbling. The car is wobbling a bit. And the fourth outside zone, pretty much the same proximity as Kirill did in his respective, chase run. So yeah, a couple of mistakes. Zahar in his chase miscalculated the slowdown. Probably thought that Kirill was going to slow down more and lost him a bit. And Kirill is going to be going into the top 16 to battle Ilnur. Of course, he was the winner of our first duel. Roman Friedman and Nikita Karavayev are up next. Roman Friedman was 6th in quali, I believe, with a score of 85 points, and his car is significantly faster off the line, it seems, though, than Nikita Makarov's BMW E36. So there is, yeah, quite a bit of separation. That's a chance to pull back some proximity, but Nikita pretty much has straight wheels there on the transition into the third outside zone, and ooh, yeah, that's a major mistake coming into the fourth outside zone, and pretty much, you know, smashing into the leader and over-rotating in the end. So let's see if Roman Friedman makes any of those mistakes that were made by Nikita Karabaev. So far so good, very good in the deceleration zone. Nikita Karabaev not having the angle again that is sort of prescribed in the judge's assignment. Good dive up on the door of the leader, and it's very close. Let's see if he can transition closely as well. Some separation. It's another hit into the door. So very similar outcomes. And both times it was Nikita who had the 0 basically, but for different reasons. But I think, again, this transition into the last outside zone, you can't really like decelerate massively coming into it. You have to maybe stabilize the car a bit, but nothing more. It's just that little bit of a stabilization with a clutch or maybe a dab of a handbrake. But if the leader like slows down quite noticeably and then the chase driver smashes into him, that's going to be the leader's fault, obviously. But seems like it's not as straightforward as it seems. And, so negotiating, whose fault was that? Well, again, 2 incidents in this heat. So in the first run, 2 incidents in the same place into runs of the same heat, and I believe in the first one it was sort of Nikita's fault. He over-rotated on his own. And in the second one it's not that clear. It seemed like Rahman was very aggressive, and as he was transitioning he gained quite a lot of speed and then wasn't able to manage it and sort of stay behind the lead driver. As a result, Nikita ended up in the wall. But these are obviously my guesses, and they might not correlate very well with reality. Seems like we're gonna have a one more time. But that's gonna be later, and right now we're gonna have Igor Motorny and Yuri Merkulov. 11th place qualifier, Igor Motorny is gonna start in the lead position. Our B-powered S14 versus very usual, very boring E92. So on the inside for Yuri Merkulov, having to catch up to Igor Motorny, who seems to have the upper hand in this battle of engines and motors. Only at the end of the third outside zone he manages to catch up somewhat to the leader, and it's the same picture in the fourth outside zone in the final one. So interestingly, yeah, there is some pace difference, and Igor Motorny does seem to be faster than Yuri Merkulov. And it's go for the second run of this heat, and Igor Motorny is a lot of angle there, has to pull it back at the very start. That wasn't very good, and it's heads into the wall. He's continuing, but I believe that's gonna be 0, of course, because, well, collisions like that do affect the vehicle's, you know, movement and its ability to continue forward. They do generally lead to 0. But let's see whether that's true this time. It was a sort of a weird deceleration from the leader as well. But Igor Matorny probably just got lost in the smoke or something. It looked like that. Yeah, and it seems like Yuri Merkulov is gonna get the win and go into the top 16. So, yeah. We're probably gonna say nice try to Igor Matorny. Now we're gonna have our one more time between Roman Friedman and Nikita Karavayev. Roman Friedman starting, obviously in the lead position. Good initiation, but crashed the car right after it. There's some separation, and Nikita Karavayev is pretty much straightening out and almost over-rotating in the following outside zone. Ooh, there's so many corrections. Very weird choice of angle in the third outside zone. And just, yeah, not having the pace at all to challenge Roman Friedman. And then probably stress playing its part, and then just having some very weird inputs that cause, you know, the car to go into massive angle and then sort of pull it back right after. Roman has no issues like that so far. Deceleration's very close between two. Roman is running significant, well, somewhat less angle, but it's not very noticeable. Very good dive in the third outside zone. Very close between the two on the rear quarter panel of the lead car. And this is the place where the mistake happened last time, and this time they go around without any issues. So yeah, Roman managed to avoid decapitating his opponent, and the run sort of went on smoothly. Nikita in his chase was like pretty hopeless in terms of pace. He tried everything. He made some serious mistakes when it comes to angle and just the line as well. As a result, yeah, very much predictably, Roman Friedman advances on. Our next driver pairing is going to be, of course, Ilnur Simbayev versus Kirill Chichetin. And yeah, 2S chassis, different generations, different engines as well. But yeah, Ilnur definitely has the pace on par with some of the other like very, very fast drivers. And Kirill so far is managing that pretty nicely. The deceleration zone comes and a little bit out of sync, but not too much. And Kirill is making a little bit of a dive into the third outside zone, manages to stay very close to the leader. It's a prolonged transition, and it makes it work. Very close, very nice chase by Kirill, especially the last part of the track. Sort of like out of third outside zone into the fourth and final one. Let's see if Ilnur, with maybe a little bit of a faster car, can manage to do a better chase, and so far it doesn't seem like it. Only now manages to get closer, a little bit on the inside with less angle. Is it going to be a big dive? Yes, it is. And yeah, he was diving with less angle, managed to increase the angle to match the leader. And the same goes for the last outside zones, very, very close. It's front wheel to front wheel. Very beautiful indeed. But the start, I have to say, the start of the run was not in Ilnor's favor, I would say. A little bit of a separation right off the initiation. That was interesting. But yeah, of course, what matters is that he managed to catch up, eliminate the distance, and follow the leader very closely to the finish. Pretty much. There was also some separation in the second outside zone and on the way from the second outside zone to the third outside zone. But then a good old dive managed to fix all that. But Kirill also, of course, a very solid lead chase run by him, well, lead run as well. Same sort of like diving into the third outside zone. And, well, the fourth outside zone was very beautiful indeed by him. I think Ilnur was maybe a bit closer. He was like front wheel to front wheel. And that's, well, the best position you can be in as a chase driver. And it seems like, yeah, he's going to be getting the win and advancing on to the top 8. And battling him is going to be either Roman Friedman or Yuri Merkulov. So yet another S15 versus E92. Our drivers are pulling up to the line. Yeah, Roman Friedman definitely prone to some mistakes, like we've seen in his OMT battle. But Yuri Merkulov right now is making mistakes himself. He's quite at quite a distance from the leader, and is also like correcting the car every single second. Roman Friedman may have gotten a little bit too wide there at the start of the third outside zone, but Yuri Merkulov makes a very good transition into the last zone. Manages to keep the proximity. So yeah, Roman Friedman needs to have a better first corner than Yuri in order to advance further, and it's a hit on the door immediately, and Yuri goes into the no-go zone. So was it over-aggression, or was it like incorrect behavior from the leader? Maybe too much of a slowdown on the initiation, something like that. Something definitely caused. It doesn't just happen out of nowhere. But initially it just seems like Roman was over-aggressive coming into the first corner. But again, you have to obviously judge how severe the slowdown was, because as I said in the very beginning, for this track there is no like hard slowdown zone on initiation. It's quite minor in terms of how much speed you're losing. So if the leader actually slows down quite significantly and noticeably, that is going to be any collision which happens in those circumstances is going to be on the lead driver. The fault is going to be on the lead driver. maybe it's not as easy as I explained. Again, Yuri just doesn't. Again, in his chase, it does seem like maybe his car is a bit less speedy than Raman's S15. But also, if your car is faster, it doesn't mean that you can just jump into the door and just smash someone with your front end or your wheel and just say, "Well, why are you so slow?" You have to manage that. That's why some like pro drivers say a lot of the times that it's harder to chase a slow car with a fast car than it is to chase a fast car with a slow car. The difference here is, of course, not that major. Difference in speed, but so it is something to keep in mind. And also, what you have to understand is the initiation point. Oh, most of the drivers do it differently, like the angle that they have at the initiation, like how quickly they go on throttle after the initiation and stuff like that. So I've seen some people that do, you know, huge angle on initiation and then pull it back in order to still get to the inside touch and go and not be in the no-go zone. So it is, this is why we have, you know, practice servers and stuff, so you can understand who drives how and sort of make your own conclusions. And also that's why we have practice before the start of the quali. It would, of course, help more if there was a rule like in real drifting, where before the top 32 and top 16, I believe as well, if you come up to the person you're battling in the top 32 and top 16 and ask him to do a run, to battle, basically practice battle, he has to say yes by rule. You can't say no, and I think if you do, it's either a fine or I don't know, some sort of. But it's not going to be like a disqualification from the championship or from the round. No, it's not as severe as that. But well, it's better not to do that. And yeah, if we had that implemented, it would help, of course, massively, because you would know who you're battling, and you would come onto the practice server and say, "Hey, I'm battling you in top 32. Can we have like some practice?" And that would help. Of course, doesn't necessarily mean that the driver that you're battling against is going to drive exactly the same in practice and in tandems and quali. But, you know, it's not going to be like night and day. Very unlikely. So, something pretty close. But, yeah, you get a sort of sense. You get a sense of how fast his car is, how aggressive he is, how open he is when he drives in the lead. And when taken into account, when you sort of add that all up, you will get sort of a recipe for how to drive when you're chasing him, for instance. Or maybe in case of some white car dish. How to maybe pull something borderline legal on this particular driver so that the judges don't notice. and I can get away with it, win and advance on. This is almost like 100% is going to be one more time, judging by how long it is taking the judges to come up with a decision. It probably is a sort of a good thing in order to, have a cleaner, well, provided they have a cleaner battle, which is not guaranteed at all. But if they do, it would be sort of more fair, I guess, to win like that than to win when there are, like, contact crashes and sort of uncertainty as the main driving cause of all this happening right now. Yeah. I think what's interesting is how these sort of situations are interpreted by electronic judges, as they call it. Sort of Wally system, which is a new thing to Formula Drift, developed by Race Labs Technology, I believe. It's called a couple of Australian blokes who basically put together these boxes that feed the telemetry of the car to another box that sort of projects the trajectory, the angle, everything. And it's good for quali, pretty good for quali. We've had some strange decisions, well, sort of strange decisions in Formula Drift, like James Dean's run, which looked quite impressive, was only in 89, and he was top quali. Yeah, as I said this one more time. But yeah, when it comes to tandems, I think all the electronic judges have electronic judging decisions. Have one big sort of problem is that people tend to get the speed of how it works and then abuse its weaknesses. Anyway, we're going back at it again, and Yuri Merkulov is on the inside of the track, again correcting the car quite a bit, going into the no-go zone, which he's of course allowed to do because he's a chase driver, and Roman Friedman is going on the wide line. He needs to do. Yuri Merkulov is not really that close to the leader, I have to say, while having the proximity he had in the first run. And yeah, that can be applied pretty much to the entire track, just not having the proximity that was sort of expected from him. Now it is going to be time for the second run. Let's see if Roman can seal the deal and finally end this duel, go into the top 8. It's much closer than Yuri was in his chase so far. Third outside zone looks good, and the transition into the fourth one is, well, pretty much textbook, I would say. Very close on the door. This is a lot more clear than the battle we've had before. Roman having pretty much no issues in the chase position, and Yuri having some quite noticeable, problems like lack of pace and inability to even catch up to the leader with compromise. As a result, Roman Friedman is going into the top 8. And he will be battling Ilnur Simbaev, of course, for a chance to go into the top 4. So Ilnur is pulling up to the line. He will be starting as the leader, of course, because he was third place qualifier with 90 points. And Roman Friedman is going to be giving chase with his 85 points for quali. And they're away. And from the line, doesn't seem like there's any pace difference there. Roman Friedman is diving a little bit to the inside. And is accelerating out towards the D-cell zone. Roman Friedman's very close. I think pretty much the closest we've seen anyone so far in the D-cell zone. And yeah, just taking some angle out of the car, definitely, to keep up with Ilnur. And same goes for the last outside zone, so definitely Roman is worried about the pace of Ilnur. That sort of shows. But even though he was worried, he, well, had pretty much no issues following him very closely. Of course, with less angle and a bit of compromise, but not that major. Ilnur initiating in the chase position, and yeah, quite a bit of corrections there at the very start. Very close in the D-cell zone, touching the front wheel there a little bit. Early transition into the third outside zone. Roman maybe dropping wheels there on the outside of the track. And Ilnur having his signature transition. It's a couple of contacts there. It's very good chase. Last outside zone, again like he did last time. Front wheel to front wheel. Pretty much very close. Very much in control. Couple of points again where he sort of lost proximity. Second outside zone, definitely coming out of second outside zone. He had to make very serious dive to get back into these into the pockets, because Roman managed to drive away somehow. But again, Roman maybe had one wheel off the track. I'm not quite sure, but it looked like it at the start of the third outside zone. Some like 3/1, 3/2. If that's the case, that's a major mistake, because even like one tire off is -5 points for the line. And of course, we're not necessarily giving points for tandems, but that's a good reference point for understanding what mistake so it takes away what amount of points. And they're still discussing whether, there were any major mistakes. Ilnur does seem to have, I think from every sort of chase we've seen from him, he does initiate into quite a big angle and then corrects the car immediately by quite a big margin. So the difference between the angle on initiation and his actual angle in the first corner is actually quite noticeable. But again, if he manages to make it work, and actually the leader does pretty much the same thing, which a lot of them do, then it's not a problem. Of course, the corrections in the chase position are also taken into account when sort of deciding the outcome of the tandem run. But the corrections in the chase matter, I think, very little, because, well, they don't affect the leader, and if you're staying close, well, so be it. The proximity doesn't change. What changes is the angle, relative to the leader's car, of course. And the corrections made by the leader, of course, are very severe mistakes and are being judged quite harshly because they do affect the chase driver. And because of them, chase driver can, crash into the leader or crash into the wall. A lot of dangerous scenarios, definitely. Seems like we're gonna have a decision finally, and it is gonna be Ilnur going into the top 4, our final participant of this sort of pretty much final stage of the competition, top 4. And he will be going against Vladislav Rizanov. So our top 4 is Timur Burilov, Alexander Kuskov, and Vladislav Rizanov, Elnur Simbaev. We'll see you for that action very shortly.
If you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose.
Okay.
Hey, I'm 4 months deep in this jam, and I'm whipping it round as a babe, and plotted on chase, gonna make these games.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening, and it's just...
Sorry.
have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control.
Here's our bracket for the final four. So we have Timur and Alexander on one side and Alexander and Ilnur on the other. We have top four, of course, 2 heats, and then, well, minimum. And then we'll have battle for third and the grand final. Gonna be interesting. So far, we have, I think I'm right in saying we have our top 4 qualifiers ending up in the top 4 of the main event. So Timur was, of course, first place qualifier. Alexander Kuskov was fourth place qualifier. Vladimir Rizanov was second place qualifier, and Ilnur was third place qualifier. So yeah, it does. There's a tendency here. All the top 4 from different parts of the bracket, they won their respective sort of group battles. Let's say battles all the way towards the top 4. Well, top 8 in their groups, and then went on to the top 4, which is going to be happening very shortly. Yeah, we see already them practicing. Some funny things going on. Of course, this isn't how it's gonna be in the top 4. It's not gonna be all 4 drivers running simultaneously. That's on the unserious front. Yeah, we'll see whether the first place qualifier can actually get first place in the tandems, which is very likely, provided that our first place qualifier actually has a very fast car and is very comfortable driving it. Like wheel to wheel, door to door, bumper to bumper transitions like this one. Accelerating out of corners very nicely. Cars very set up, very much set up for the job. And so, yeah, we'll have. I think at this point, there probably won't be any major base differences between the cars. All the people who went on to win their respective groups have relatively the same pace, and will be able to put up a fight against each other. Well, at least that's how it should be. Last time in the first round we had sort of like a bit of an exception where one of the top 4 drivers was actually like 19th place qualifier or something, if I remember correctly. But generally, of course, it does tend to be the way that we have things right now. So the top drivers from quali tend to end up in the higher stages of competition. they do have a bit of an advantage, of course, because, well, it seems like they have been practicing a lot more than the rest of the field. We'll have our first battle right now. There is going to be Timur and Alexander going against each other, and Alexander is initiating very closely, a little bit less angle, but following him very nicely, wheel to door, and the deceleration is, yeah, again, a little bit out of sync, but the proximity is there, and the dive into the third outside zone is also there. Timur is driving his usual near perfect lead run. Alexander following him very nicely, good proximity. Again, sacrificing a bit of angle, but it's not that big of a deal. Very close. I think, well, probably Timur will do the same. Seems like, weirdly, we're gonna have a rerun or something. I don't know. But anyway. Ooh, a big angle from Timur on the initiation. Alexander had to back off a bit, but no matter, following him very nicely. Again, taking some angle out of the car. Quite close in the second outside zone. Diving wheel to the third outside zone again. Less angle consistently throughout the whole course. In the fourth outside zone, loses him a bit, but still, the proximity is there. Maybe, yeah, from time to time, losing some of it, but not like major chunks of proximity, which is the most important thing. Timur, this time as well, starting a little bit further back, give himself the ability to roll forwards, and it sort of worked because he's giving very close chase. So far, very close in the decel zone. As a result, big dive into third outside zone. There's some contact there, but Timur is pretty much matching the angle of the lead car. And a very nice transition in the fourth outside zone, very close, much closer than Alexander was in his chase. That was definitely a battle worth to be in the top 4. So yeah, again, in these sort of situations, it's always who was like a couple of centimeters closer in that point. So very small things make very big difference. And finding out what are these small things is of course down to the judges, who are, well, actively discussing at this moment. So I've just noticed that, yeah, the graphics are a bit wrong. This is, of course, not an E36 E92. But maybe actually it is E36, I don't know. And it's just the shell of an E92 dropped on top of a 36 chassis, which wouldn't work, I think, because the E92 is very, very long. And the E36 just isn't. And making the chassis longer definitely isn't the best idea, because it's not going to give you any sort of structural strength and reliability. And Timur is going into the finals. 2 judges voted for him, yeah, having a closer chase while also having pretty much ideal lead run, does help. So Alexander Kuskov will be going into the battle for 3rd place. Now we'll have, of course, our second battle of the top 4, which is going to be Vladislav Rizanov and Ilnur Simbayev. 2S chassis. Ilnur is very aggressive right from the run-up to the initiation. And again, his sort of signature initiation, very close in the D-subs and the second outside zone. Early transition, diving into the 3rd outside zone, touching the leader there slightly, and then losing a bit of proximity, but catching up to the leader very nicely in the 4th outside zone. It was very nice chase by Ilnur Simbayev. Vladislav has definitely a lot of work to do in order to, win and go into the finals, because Ilnur's chase was very impressive. And right now Vladislav is doing exactly that. He's very close. He's very close in the... Ooh, it's too close. There is contact, and Ilnur is in the wall. That's gonna be the end of that. It does seem like Vladislav also crashes into the wall on his own later on. It did seem like, the chase driver's fault quite a bit, because again, there is a diesel zone, and after that you don't expect your opponent to just skyrocket out of the diesel zone into the next outside zone. You have to account for the fact that even though he as a leader has to accelerate after the dotted line, it does take time for the car to accelerate. So if you don't slow down, actually it seems that I was wrong, and it's the exact opposite. And Vladislav Rizanov is going into the finals, which means we're gonna have our battle for 3rd place now, which is gonna be Alexander Kuskov and Ilnur Simbayev. And yeah, that also means we're gonna have the number 1 qualifier and number 2 qualifier in the finals. And of course, number 3 qualifier, number 4 qualifier in the battle for 3rd place. It will be very funny if everyone takes their corresponding places. So if Ilnur takes 3rd place in the tandems, Alexander takes 4th place, and then Timur takes 1st place. Vladislav, of course, that means Vladislav takes 2nd place. But anyway, that's just some rubbish in your eardrums. And right now we're having our battle for 3rd place. Alexander is really not matching the angle in any single part of the track. He's driving quite a noticeable difference in angle there, but managed to match it at the end of the 3rd zone, diving into the 4th outside zone. Ilnur is definitely very quick. So it seems like Alexander is a bit outpaced by Ilnur, which might be a problem. Ilnur is definitely faster out the gates, initiating very close wheel to wheel, following all the way through the inside touch and go. I don't think we've seen anything like that so far. Beautiful decel, and Ilnur his usual, like letting the lead driver go further while pulling himself a little bit back, and then gaining proximity again in outside zone 3 and then outside zone 4. Looks very much, well, in his style. He sort of does pretty much the same thing every run, and well, if it works, why change it? Well, clearly it hasn't worked one time when he was in the top 4, but up to that point it was working, so I guess that's why it didn't change anything. Again, yeah, Alexander was in his chase was sort of taking quite a bit of angle out of the car and trying to catch up to the leader. He was successful, definitely, but the angle difference was there, like no denying it. And ignoring his chase, I just think had like better angle as compared to the leader, and as a result, yeah, he does get 3rd place, and the first of the funny numbers magic thing actually happened. So Ilnur gets 3rd place in quali and 3rd place in the event. So only have 2 decisions out of 3. No, 3 out of 3. So it's unanimously Ilnur takes 3rd place in this 2nd round. Which only leaves us with the final. So Timur and Vladislav are gonna battle it out. Find out whether the funny number magic is gonna continue or gonna be an upset in that regard. So again, Timur, as the 1st place qualifier, will be starting in the lead position, and Vladislav, well, he probably does know that Timur is very quick, and I'm not sure how they compare. Of course, we'll see very shortly, but sort of from the analytical side of things. Well, there's no time for analytics because it's time to go, and Vladislav is on the inside, tapping the leader immediately, very close. Ooh, lets him go, and then there's a festival of corrections, but manages to keep close. Anyway, Timur is not reacting, of course, to any of the things happening behind him. And it's the final outside zone, and it does seem like Vladislav is maybe in a bit of a disadvantage, but only just. Timur was running a beautiful lead run, just as he always is. And it's time for potentially the final battle of today. Timur is quite close, matching the angle of the leader, and it's wheel to door, wheel to door, wheel to wheel. Oh, the initiation's the slowdown's a bit out of sync. And is there gonna be a dive? Yes, there is, into more angle than the leader. The leader doesn't have enough angle in the 3rd zone. He should have had more. And the last zone is very close, and definitely closer than Vladislav was. I would suggest Timur had a much better lead run, that's for sure, but also a slightly better chase run. So it should be going his way. That's 1 vote for Timur and 2 votes for Timur, and your winner in the 2nd round of the International Simdrift Challenge Community is Timur Burilov, driving the Nissan Skyline R34. Impressive, very nice. 2nd place, will be going to Vladislav, of course. Nice try. Third place. Ilnur, of course, and is quite quite a looker. His S13. And here are the sort of the final three of our event, and the funny number magic actually did continue all the way to the finals. Timur was first in qualifying, first in the event. Vladislav was second qualifying, second in the event. Ilnur was third and third. So interesting end there to the event. It is definitely interesting to see that from time to time, because again, as I said, in the last stage we had a little bit of an upset with the 19th place qualifier. Again, I believe it was going into the top 4, but largely, like in the test stage, we had first place qualifier win the event, so it is mostly like that. We see the drivers, of course, taking photos. All the photos from the event you will find on our Discord or on our Telegram, as you'll find all our partners, who are, of course, I remind you one last time, it's MAKAROV Design and 3D Models, Drift News, all the latest news from the Drift World, DUDAREV Motorsports, best equipment you'll find for your sim drifting rig, Zoom Racing. You can also check out our own ISDCC Drift School and our livery design and 3D modeling team. Here's a look at the bracket, how, you can look at how the driver you rooted for, how he sort of got on in this event from TOP-32 onwards. Huge thank you to everyone who's been watching, who's been participating, everyone who's supporting us. And we'll see you at the next stage, which is going to be on the 26th of April. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll see you at SOCHI again, of course. Until then, keep practicing, keep drifting. Maybe you'll be one of the participants. Ciao.
If you have to say goodbye, be careful not to lose. I wanna lose control. Cry, 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 cry. I don't wanna cry, cry. I wanna lose control.
Okay.
Конечно, уже очень давно.
Hey, I'm falling back deep in this jamming, and I'm whipping it round as a babe, and plotting on chase, gonna make these knees.
Я тоже помню еще тут.
Со мной.
Wow, it's such a beautiful evening, and it's just...
Он открыт?
Sorry.
Не знаю. Я знаю то, что он катался, когда еще по РДС, игра была РДС. Ну, тогда типа не было больше ничего, там все шли просто активно. Никита, ты тоже с того времени, когда еще?
Ну да, я играл в РДС, но я не играл в
Ну просто мне просто не можно как бы историю, то, чтобы он начинал с этого РДС.